Hi, everyone, and welcome to What in the State of Washington, the podcast where we break down the legislative process, uplift our communities, and make civics engaging for everyone. I'm your host, Onya Robertson, and today I wanted to share why I'm so passionate about hosting this podcast and why I believe you can trust me to guide you through the twists and turns of Washington state politics. So let me start with a little bit of my story. Years ago, I went back to college after more than a decade away. I had barely completed 2 years the first time around, and honestly, I flunked out. So when I decided to return, I was scared. I was terrified, really. But my late father, Clyde Robertson, he always believed in me. And even after he passed, his voice in my head kept telling me to go back to school. So I did. While studying at the Evergreen State College in Tacoma, I discovered something that blew my mind. There are lawyers in the legislature, like a lot of them. And that was the spark for me. Although my degree was in liberal arts from Evergreen Tacoma, my emphasis was in African American studies and law because I knew even then that I wanted to become a lawyer. But let me tell you, I had no idea what the legislative process involved, like none. At first, I didn't think I belonged there. I thought I wasn't smart enough, that I was way too Black for those spaces, and I was working a full-time job plus random consulting gigs just to make ends meet. I was struggling like so many of us do. But then a few amazing mentors, Professor Tyrus Smith of Evergreen Tacoma and Luis Apolayo Torres, as well as Wes McIntosh, convinced me to go for it. They helped me prepare for my interview with the legislative internship program, and I got in. So soon after starting, I was promoted to session aide, and we'll talk about what a session aide is and a legislative aide and all those things at some point. But I was in the rooms where decisions were being made. I wrote speeches for the senator that I worked for. I helped draft legislation. I wrote speaking points about various things that my legislator at the time was working on. And I learned how things really operate behind the scenes. And you know what? It wasn't as intimidating as I thought it would be. I realized that legislators rely on their teams to make things happen. And I saw how much attention offices give when citizens call, visit, or show any interest. Honestly, it happened less often than I expected. People are just not as engaged as they could be. But when someone did speak up, everything stopped in the office and everyone listened to that citizen, and that stuck with me. So by the end of that session, I knew two things for sure. One, I had learned so much that I felt like I belonged, even in spaces I never thought I could step into. And two, it's okay to not know everything. What matters is building relationships and having the courage to ask questions. So this podcast is my way of sharing what I've learned and helping more people feel empowered to engage with the legislative process. If I can go from being unsure and overwhelmed to writing legislation and speeches, then I know we can all show up for our communities in meaningful ways that work for us and for our particular situations. So, with that being said, thank you for trusting me to lead this journey. Together, we're going to demystify the legislative process, define terms, and show how these decisions impact us. This isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up when you can, learning together, and making our voices heard. Thank you for tuning in to What in the State of Washington. Don't forget to subscribe, share with your friends, and send in your questions. Let's do this together. See you next time.